or characteristic of intangible asset. It can be controlled and it has future economic benefit. So this is the three attributes or characteristic of intangible asset. It can be identified, we can control them, and it has a future economic benefits. So that's why when we are valuing a company, business, we have also value the intangible asset because it has future economic benefit. So what type of future economic benefit? So it has, it can bring cash inflow to the company. So this is the characteristic of identifiability. So an intangible asset is identifiable when it is separable. So what does separable mean? Separable means that capable of being separated and sold, transferred, licensed, rented, or exchanged either individually or together with the related contract, or arises from contractual or other legal rights, regardless of whether those rights are transferable or separable from the entity or from other rights and obligation. So in determining whether it is intangible asset or not, normally they will run a test. So this is among the things that we will look into in deciding whether the company has intangible asset or not. So the first thing that we will look at is either it is separable or not. So the second thing is whether it arises from contractual or legal rights. So we will look at later what type of intangible asset is arises from contractual or any other legal rights when we look at the types of intangible asset. So just now is the definition of intangible asset from International Accounting Standard. So this is a definition for intangible asset from International Valuation Standard. So the International Valuation Standard define intangible asset as a non-monetary asset that manifests itself by its economic properties. So it does not have physical substance but grants rights and economic benefits to its owner. So the definition by International Valuation Standards Committee is more general if you compare to the definition from the International Accounting Standard just now. So the International Accounting Standard have a more clearer definition on intangible asset as compared to the International Valuation Standard Committee. So the definition from International Valuation Standard Committee is very general. So they define intangible asset as a non-monetary asset that manifests itself by its economic properties. So it does not have physical substance. Same with the definition by IAS, International Accounting Standard. The intangible asset does not have any physical substance, but it grants rights and economic benefit. But without, even though it is without physical substance, but it has economic benefits. So as mentioned by the International Accounting Standards, it has economic benefit in the form of it can bring a cash inflow to the companies or to the businesses. So this is an example of intangible asset. So patent technology, computer software, database, trade secrets. So patent technology, computer software, database, and trade secrets are one form of intangible assets. So other types of other example of intangible assets are trademarks, trade dress, newspaper, mastheads, internet domains. So internet domains is also classified under intangible asset. It can be sell and buy internet domains. So another example of intangible assets are video and audio visual material, like television programs, like any films. So it is also classified under intangible asset because it can be sold and by a customer. A customer list is also a example of intangible asset. So customer list, mortgage servicing rights, licensing, royalty and standstill agreements, import quotas, franchise agreement, customer and supplier relationships, including customer list and marketing rights. So this is all examples of intangible asset. So as I mentioned earlier, what type of intangible asset that the company has depends on which industries that the company are operating in. Let's say if the company is a film maker, so their intangible asset could be in the form of video and audio visual materials, like television programs, motion pictures, blah blah blah. So it depends. So franchise agreement is also type of intangible asset. So intangible assets can be acquired by separate purchases as a part of a business combination, by a government grant, by exchange of assets, or by self-creation. So this is how we can acquire intangible asset. We can either purchase it from other companies, we can acquire it as a part of a business combination, we can acquire by a government grant. Government give a special grant to the company to have the intangible asset, or by exchange of assets. So this one could be between companies, exchange of asset between companies. Let's say company A wants a copyright from company B. So maybe company A will give a certain amount of shares to company B for the right to have the patent rights from company B. So it can be also by self-creation. So your company create your own intangible asset. So for example, type of intangible asset that can be created by self-creation is a patent, a copyright. So let's say if you invent in something, so then you register the patent or the innovation that you have created, so it will be your company's self-creation intangible asset. So again, this is the criteria: non-physical asset, non-physical existence, non-monetary, incapable of receiving fixed return, identifiable, capable of being separated, so licensed. Also, this is the characteristic again. So there is no single global definition of intangible asset. So normally the definition of intangible asset is given by respective professional bodies which governs certain profession. Like just now we have seen a definition from International Relations Standard Committees, and then we have also seen definition by International Accounting Standards, but yet there is no standard, a single definition of intangible asset globally. So, but if you look at the definition is more or less the same. As I mentioned just now, kan, if you look at the definition by International Relations Standard Committees, it is more general as compared to definition by International Accounting Standard. Do you have any idea why the definition by International Accounting Standard is more precise as compared to definition by its International Valuation Standard Committee? Do you have any idea why the definition from the International Accounting Standard is more specific as compared to the definition from International Relations Standard Committee? IAS is International Accounting Standard. IVSC is International Relations Standard Committee. So the reason why is because if you look at from the accounting profession, this is a part and parcel of the asset of the company which has to be reported under their financial statements. So as far as the accounting profession is concerned, the issues of intangible assets values has emerged or has exist in the profession long time ago, whereas from the valuation profession's perspective, the issues of intangible asset only has come into pictures about 10 years ago when the subfield of valuation, which is business valuation, comes into pictures. So before the existence of a business valuation practice, so the valuation profession has no interest on the intangible asset. So as far as our normal valuation practice is concerned, we are valuing the tangible asset. We are valuing a property, a real estate. But when the business valuations come into pictures, then when we have to value a business, then only the business, the valuation has to be aware of the intangible asset. That is because when we value a company, we have to take into consideration the value of intangible asset. We cannot value the company by ignoring the value of intangible asset unless we are very sure that the company has no intangible asset. So if we can be it has no intangible asset, then we can ignore the intangible asset. But as far as the business is concerned, most of the company, they do have the intangible asset. The list is by the existence of a goodwill. Goodwill is also one of the intangible assets. So we will look at what is goodwill in a minute. So basically, this is what is included under intangible asset of a business. It is a contracts or contractual relationships, non-contractual agreement, undefined intangible. So under undefined intangible, it is a goodwill. So goodwill is considered as undefined intangible for the business. So any other form of intangible asset is intellectual property. So intellectual property is categorized as intangible asset. So let's look at detail one by one. So let's look at the type of intangible asset which exists as a result of contracts or contractual relationship. So this is the type of intangible asset or the rights which is derived from the contracts. So rights derived from contracts refers to legal responsibilities arising from a contractual agreement in exchange of service or goods, such as service contract, employment contract, or contract related to occupancies. So any service contract, employment contracts, or contracts related to occupancies is considered intangible assets. So this type of intangible asset derived from contract. Can you name an example of service contract? Can anybody give example of a service contract? We can have a few example of service contract in our profession from the valuation property management professions. Can you name a few examples which is derived from a contract as far as intangible asset is concerned for our profession?
Tenancy agreement.
It could be tenancy agreement. It could be a property management contract to manage a certain buildings. It can be a facilities management contract for certain buildings. Because if you look at the nature of property management contract, normally the rights to manage the buildings will be given exclusively to certain companies only. So let's say if the rights to manage Mid Valley Mega Mall is given to Rahim & Co., that means that only Rahim & Co. has the privilege to manage that particular building. So that's why it is considered as intangible asset. So when we are valuing Rahim & Co., so we have to take into consideration the service contract which has granted to them to manage, let's say, Mid Valley Mega Mall. So when we are doing a business relation, we should ask the management to find out whether they have a certain service contract or not. If they do have a service contract, so we have to take it into consideration when we value the company, because service contract is considered one of the intangible asset which derive from a contract. So rights derived from a contract. Like you said just now, tenancy agreement, so which has monetary or economics benefit to the parties involved. So this is the intangible asset which derive from contractual arrangement. Just now, type of intangible which derive from contractual or contract agreement, but this one is the intangible asset which is derived from non-contractual agreements. The example is working relationships developed over a long period of time in doing business or working together. So there is no contractual agreement, but the relationship which has exists for a long time, a long period between the two companies or two partners can be regarded as a type of intangible asset, but it is exists based on non-contractual agreement. But this type of intangible asset is quite difficult to be proven, because normally they don't involve any contractual agreement. So this is under the type of intangible asset which is under undefined intangibles. So under undefined intangibles, we have a goodwill. What is a goodwill? So goodwill is created when one company acquires another for a price higher than the fair market value of its asset. Example, if company A buys company B for more than the fair value of company B's asset and debts, the amount left over is listed on a company A's balance sheet as a goodwill. So goodwill is the excess of purchase price over the fair market value of a company's identifiable asset. So this is example of goodwill. So normally goodwill will be listed in the company's balance sheet. So this is the definition of goodwill. A goodwill is an intangible asset linked to an established business built over time as business gains favorable reputation for maintaining good customers, supplier relationship, and effective branding, as it is expected to make profit year after year. So this is actually what does goodwill means. Can you elaborate or explain in simple terms what is a goodwill? Goodwill in Malay, it is called muhibah. So what is a business goodwill? If you look at this definition, goodwill is intangible asset linked to an established business built over time as business gains favorable reputation for maintaining good customer-supplier relationship and effective branding, as it is expected to make profit year after year. Can you give example of a goodwill? Anybody has any idea what is an example of a goodwill?
McDonald.
McDonald tu name of company, kan? Dia punya brand tu, brand is one of the goodwill lah, the brand, because as you mentioned just now, McDonald. Why McDonald? When people wants to eat burger, they will always look at or choose McDonald's. Why? Because
Customer
because
sedap.
the customer loyalty not only sedap Ikhwan, dia people trusted on the brand kan. For instance, if you want to buy a toothpaste kan, when people want to buy toothpaste, people will always refer toothpaste to as a Colgate, whereas Colgate is a brand of a toothpaste too. There are a lot of other brands kan, tapi when people talking to about to buy toothpaste ni, ubat gigi, dia mesti refer sebagai Colgate. Colgate tu sebenarnya is a brand. So that is an example of goodwill lah.
Macam ni lah, Pampers.
Yes, like Pampers. Pampers actually is a brand of baby diapers. Lampin pakai buang, but when parents want to buy baby diapers, they refer it as a Pampers. Even though when they go to the shopping complex or supermarket, they don't actually buy Pampers. What they buy is maybe Pet or Mami Poco, another brand, but they still refer it as a Pampers. Actually, Pampers, Mami Poco, Pet is a brand of baby diapers, kan? But when people want to buy baby diapers, they refer it as a Pampers, because a Pampers ni has a goodwill, a trusted name among the customers punya mind. So that's why reputation, maintaining good customer supplier, good customer supplier relationship tu. Because when people has trusted a certain brand, certain they will look after, they will buy the products. Okay, so that's why in the definition it is stated that gains favorable reputation for maintaining good customer supplier relationship. So that is a simple example of goodwill lah. People might trusted the brand because of maybe the quality, maybe because of the price. So when people has trust on that brands, then people will keep buying that brand, even though the price is slightly higher compared to another brand or compared to dia punya competitors. Like McDonald lah kan. Other than McDonald, you can buy burger from KFC, you can also buy burger from Burger King, you can also buy burger from any other fast food restaurant. But when people are looking for burgers, normally they will refer it as a McDonald. So McDonald is well known for its burger. When people are looking for fried chicken, normally people will straight away refer to KFC, because KFC is well known as a fried chicken's number one trusted company kan. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Kentucky tu is a place name in the US, Kentucky. So meaning that Kentucky Fried Chicken, Kentucky lah, dari bandar Kentucky kan. If Kuala Lumpur can have a famous fried chicken, we can call it KL Fried Chicken. So that is a simple example of goodwill lah. So when people has trusted on the brands, people will buy that brands even though the price is slightly higher. So as a result, the company can gains a favorable reputation. The company can have the view of the goodwill. So that's why for some industries it is quite difficult for the newcomers to penetrate the market or to enter into the market, because their competitors, like kalau if we look at baby diapers as example, Pampers is the most trusted brand lah. Other than Pampers, maybe Mami Poco or Pet. But if you ask most of parents, they will refer baby diapers as Pampers. But Pampers is actually the one of the brand, one of the supplier or for baby diapers in the market, like toothpaste lah, macam I cakap tadi, macam ubat gigi kan. When people refer to toothpaste ni, people will refer it as Colgate. By right, Colgate is one of the manufacturer for toothpaste in the market kan. There are any other brands for toothpaste ni, ada macam-macam. So that is the example of goodwill lah. Normally most of the company, they will have their own goodwill somehow or other, which influence the customer to buy or to look at their product. So that's why somehow goodwill ni will bring economics advantage or economics benefit to the company. Because normally for any company which has a goodwill in the form of their brand tu, branding their brand tu, they don't have to make effort to advertise their product, because people already known their product. People already believe in the quality of their product. So even though they don't do a massive advertising activities, people will still buy and look for their product. So that is the example of goodwill lah. Undefined intangible. So this is the concept of goodwill. When one company buys another company, the purchasing company may pay more for the acquired company than the fair market value of its net identifiable asset, the amount by which the purchase price exceeds the fair market value. So normally when we take into consideration goodwill in the valuation process for a business, normally it will end up that the buyer, the company who buy, pay more than the fair market value, because normally fair market value will only take into consideration the tangible asset. But after taking into consideration the intangible value of the company, so normally it will end up that the buyer will pay slightly higher than the fair market value. So that is the beauty of goodwills, which has impact on the value. So some of the goodwill, some of the intangible asset is very difficult for us to measure or to value. So that's why, as I mentioned at the beginning of this semester, when we start learning about business relation, even in the market, only the most experienced valuer who are brave enough to take a business valuation cases ni. Normally not everybody is brave enough to do the business relation case, because it is very challenging, especially when it comes to the intangible asset of the company. You must have knowledge on the intangible asset. So goodwill arises only part of a purchase transaction. This is a transaction in which one company acquires all the assets of another company for some consideration other than an exchange of common stock. The buying company is willing to pay more than the fair value of the identifiable assets because the acquired company has a strong management team, favorable reputation in marketplace, superior product methods, or other unidentifiable intangibles. Sometimes if the company has a good or a strong management team. So a strong management team could also be part of the company's goodwill. If you look at the trend now, especially in Malaysia, some of the company, they are looking for certain individuals. Some company, they are looking for certain individual to lead the companies. Why? Because by having those individual in the companies, it will bring a goodwill to the companies. So that's why the goodwill ni is classified under identifiable, intangible. It is very, very, very broad, very general. So it depends if the person or the management team has influence on the company's performance. It could be one of the become one of the company's goodwill. So the acquisition cost of the identifiable asset acquired is the fair market value. This is this is the features of goodwill. Of course, it is intangible asset, non-visible, cannot be separated from the business, and therefore cannot be sold like other identifiable or separable assets without disposing of the business as a whole. The value of goodwill has no relation to the amount invested or cost incurred in order to build the business. Valuation of goodwill is subjective and is highly dependent of the valuer. Goodwill is subject to fluctuations. The value of goodwill may fluctuate widely according to internal and external factors of the businesses. For instance, like I said just now, if the strong or the good management team. So if the good management team become a goodwill of the company, so it is very difficult for us to value. So that's why it is mentioned here, the value has no relation to the amount invested or cost incurred in order to build the business. Dan dia kata valuation of goodwill is very subjective. So when it is very subjective, you must have a strong evidence, strong justification on why you are giving a certain amount of value on the goodwill element for the company. You must have a backup lah. You must have evidence or a strong justification as why you are giving a high value on the goodwill for the company. So this is the types of goodwill. So this is very important lah. Type of goodwill. You must know what type of goodwill. So the first type of goodwill is purchased. Purchased goodwill arises when a business concern is purchased and the purchase consideration paid exceeds the fair value of the separable net asset required. The purchase goodwill is the assets ship. So meaning that this type of goodwill whereby we purchase together with the company. So when we purchase the company, we purchase it together with the goodwill. So this is why it is mentioned that normally the company value is more than the fair value. Fair value normally will be determined based on tangible asset, but after taking into consideration the intangible asset value, it will end up that the company's value will be exceeds the fair market value. Again, as mentioned in the previous slide, a goodwill be very subjective. So the second type of goodwill is non-purchase or inherent goodwill. So inherent goodwill is the value of business in excess of the fair value of its separable net asset. It is referred to as internally generated goodwill, and it arises over a period of time due to good reputation of a business. This is like we are talking just now lah about Pampers, about McDonald's, kan? From when I was still a kid, when people are talking about baby diapers, people will refer it as a Pampers. So if you look at the reputation, Pampers ni has been established since a long time ago. So since I was a kid, people keep referring baby diapers as a Pampers. Same with the toothpaste company, Colgate. And when I was a kid, when my parents asked me to buy a toothpaste ni, then they will ask me, pergi beli Colgate. By right, they are not referring to the company Colgate per se. They are asking me to buy a toothpaste. But since Colgate ni has been established in the market for quite a long time, and then people already known about their product, people already believe in the quality of their product too, so people still refer other brand of the toothpaste ni as a Colgate. Like instant noodles, kan, when people want to buy instant noodle, they will refer it as a Maggi. By right, Maggi is one of the brand, the brand for instant noodle, but people will refer it as a Maggi, kan. Mak cakap Ikhwan pergi beli Maggi, sepatutnya dia nak beli mi segera tu. Ikhwan bawa balik Indomie, tapi cakap nak mak Maggi. So that's how the example lah for inherent goodwill ni, like McDonald, like KFC. So it could not be separated from the company because people already trusted the names. So people already believe in the brand, the names of the product. So it could not be separated. So in that sense, goodwill is a type of inherent goodwill yang diwarisi. This is factors which will affect goodwill. Outstanding quality of the product, because people believe in the quality of the product. And KFC, and it could be a normal fried chicken, but since people already believe in the quality, and then their motto is finger licking goods, kan, sehingga menjilat jari tu. Even though the taste is not that good, but people still believe that quality. People still believe that KFC is the most fried chicken. Dia cakap itulah locational factors. So location factors could also affect the company's goodwill. Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it is originated from Kentucky, US. If you change it to Georgia Fried Chicken, it would not be as famous as Kentucky Fried Chicken. So the period for which the business has been in the business, for instance, like I said, Pampers, Colgate, Maggi. So because it has been in the industries for a long time ago, so it has become a trusted brand. Special advantages. A company that enjoys special advantages such as favorable contracts, assured supply of raw materials at low rates, like Mydane kan. When people want to buy a low price product or low price materials, people will always go to Mydane, offer a low price materials. Now we have Mr. DIY kan. Mr. DIY. So it is a part of the special advantages goodwill for the company. So possession of trademarks. Some company they have a goodwill in terms of their trademarks, patents, copyrights, technical know-how, and research and development, well-known collaborators, etc., contribute to higher value. The factors that will affect goodwills. Nature of business. A business having stable, continuous demand for its products, such as a consumer goods, is able to earn more profit than and hence has more goodwill. If the business is risky, profit will be uncertain. The monopoly condition or limited competition enables the enterprise to earn higher profit, which leads to higher value of goodwills. So nature of business can also contribute to the goodwill. Good relations with customers, supplier, labor and government. Efficiency of management. A firm having efficient management enjoys advantages of high productivity and cost efficiency. This leads to higher profit. Management efficiency ni normally relates to the investment companies. As I mentioned just now kan, for the management, for the investment companies, normally they will tend to hire a person which has a good track record in investment. So if the company or the investment company has that sort of person in the companies, then it can brings more confidence to the investors to invest in that company. So for certain type of business ni, by having certain person or certain teams within the companies tu, it will brings a more or better goodwill to the company. So as a result, the value of the company could be higher in terms of the business or the company's value. So the next one is capital required. If two businesses have some rate of profit, the business which requires lesser amount of capital tends to enjoy more goodwill. Why is it so? For criteria number 8, factors affecting goodwill, capital required. Why is it if the two businesses have the same rate of profit, the business or the company with a lesser capital tends to enjoy more goodwill? What is the reason behind? Let's say we have company A and company B. Both company generate same amount of company. But company A capital is 100 million. Company B's capital is 150 million. So from the example, why company A has a better goodwill compared to company B? Why? Let's say their profit level is the same, but company A's capital is 100 million, company B's capital is 150 million. So in that case, why company A enjoy a better goodwill compared to company B? Anybody has any idea why?
Okey, contohnya kan. Company A 100 million, company B 150 million. Tapi
but the profit is same.
Profit same. So basically yang A tu better lah dari segi goodwill, sebab walaupun capital sikit tapi profit dia sama je dengan ketika yang tinggi bila satu tu.
The correct answer yang paling tepat lah, because it shows that companies A ni, the management is more efficient even though they have lesser or smaller amount of capital, but they manage to generate income or profit equal to the company which has higher capital than them. So it shows that the company has a better management, better strategy, better investment policy. So that's why company A enjoys a better or more goodwill compared to company B. Jawapan Ikhwan tu betul, tapi kalau makan 10 dapat 7 je.
Betul lah tu.
Yelah, orang nak 10 tak nak 7.
Okay.
Yang lain tak menjawab tu dapat kosong. So that's how lah, because by having the capability to generate the same amount of profit but with a different amount of capital, it shows that a company A which has a lesser or smaller capital ni have a better strategy, a better management team. So that's why they can manage to generate a same level of profit with company B which has a higher capital. Kan, by right in theory, if you have a higher capital, by right you should be able to generate more profit lah compared to the company which has a lesser capital, right? But maybe because the company A ni which has a smaller capital ni, but they have a good management team, so it will end up that they manage to produce same amount of profit as compared to company B who has a bigger capital. So this is the case of a goodwill valuation lah. So we will need a valuation for goodwill. For sole proprietorship, if the firm is going to be sold to another person, so we need to value the goodwill. So if the firm takes any person or any partner, if the company is going to be converted to another form of company, so this is the situation whereby we need to value the goodwill. So this one very straightforward lah you. So this is another type of intangible asset. Just now we look at goodwill as a one form of intangible asset. So the other types of intangible asset is intellectual property, IP. IA is intangible asset. IP is intellectual property. So intellectual property is one type of intangible asset. So what is intellectual property?
Idea.
So intellectual property ni kita go by definition dulu lah. Intellectual property refers to creation of the mind in the form of inventions, artistic works, design, images, which is used in commerce. So any invention, any artistic works could become one of the IP, that intellectual property for the company, for the business. So intellectual property is part of the intangible asset. And for instance, like if any one of you invents, kan, buat sesuatu yang baru, and then you register it as an invention. So when you register it as an invention, then the product will have economic value. You can sell it to the company to be commercialized produce. That's what happened. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you ever heard the story. We have a few years. One of the professors in the engineering faculty in UM. He and his PhD students, a team of PhD students, has invented kan dia produce a new thing lah, new product. Invention ni normally when you produce a new thing, new product, they manage to produce a new invention. Then what will happen is they register it as a new invention, and then they manage to sell it to one of the US company for a few million US dollar. So the invention. So when they register it as a new invention, nobody can produce that product. So when they registered it as a new invention, then they have the right to sell it to any companies lah who wants to produce the product commercially. So dia jual berapa juta dolar ke dia punya invention tu, dia punya original apa ni tu lah. So what will happen if they don't register it? If they don't register it, and anybody can reproduce the product and claim that it is their own product. So if you look at like macam kalau if you ever heard about our music punya industry kan, sometimes when some artists ni win a major competition like juara lagu ke apa ke, and then you heard that rumor that somebody claim that actually the song which win the competition is originally their song. Macam itulah case yang macam masa apa tu, Naim Daniel menang lagu tu, and then somebody claim that it is her song kan, macam tu. But she couldn't claim that it is her song unless if she register it under her name as dia punya product. If she doesn't register it as one of her creativity, kan, so she cannot claim that the song tu is belong to her. Dia macam tu lah. So in the future, if you have created something which is unique or creative, in order to avoid people from using it and claim that is their product, you should register. Tak kisahlah under patent ke, under copyright ke. So there are certain criteria lah whereby you can register it under patent ke, under invention ke, under copyright ke. So once you have registered it under invention or patent or copyright, and then no other people can claim that is their product because it is already registered under your name. So if any party use the product and claim that is their product, you can bring this matter to the court. Then the court will decide lah whether if you have a record, if you have evidence or proof that you have registered that piece of work under your name, then you will win the court case. But if you not registered under your name, and then anybody can claim that is their own product. So dia macam tu. So kalau siapa yang nak cipta lagu ke, nanti nak cipta lagu, so register lah copyright under your name. So kalau nanti menang juara lagu, kalau orang kata lagu dia, kamu boleh klik lah, kata ini lagu saya, tengok saya dah register under copyright ke, under patent ke, 10 tahun sudah, dia baru menang tahun lepas lah, contoh macam tu lah. because it is quite frequently happen in the market kan. When somebody wins some award ke apa ke, and then we heard a rumors that there are parties claiming that the original works is dia work, not the singer ataupun director tu punya work. So dia jadi isu lah. So that's why you need to know your right lah. So it can be registered under intellectual property kan. Kalau macam like the Mona Lisa drawings tu, so it has been registered under apa ni, dia punya pelukis tu punya nama, so nobody can claim that it is their drawings. So itu under intellectual property. Any artistic works, designs, image which has economic value, by right you should register it under your names. So once you have registered it under your names, and if there are a party or a company who is interested to commercialize the product, and then you can have the right to sell it to the company, and then you can earn income lah. But if you don't register it under your name, and then anybody can claim that the product is their own product. Intellectual property. So it is noted here, of all the intangible assets, intellectual properties are the most recognized. And all of types of intangible asset, intellectual property is the most easiest one lah to be recognized. So this is the criteria of intellectual property. Separable and has legal rights. So it will only has legal rights once you register it under your name. Once you have registered it under your name, then it carries a legal rights. You can claim that product is yours, and then it can be challenged in the court lah. Once it has been registered under your name, that is there. So the test, how to determine the intellectual property. So sell, license, exchange, rent, transfer. So the intellectual property ni can be sell, can be granted a license, can be exchanged, can be rented out, or can be transferred. Like KFC kan, Kentucky Fried Chicken, because it is patented or registered under KFC. So the original company has the right to franchise the product to any other interested party throughout the world. That's why kalau if you look at McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut, Domino's, kan most of them originated from the US semua tu. But since they have registered the product under their names, and then they have the right to sell, to license, to rent, or to transfer the product to other parties. Macam like KFC, McDonald's tu they grant a license, and a company in other countries is given a special license to operate the business, to run the business using their names. So that's why we have KFC Malaysia, KFC Hong Kong, KFC United Kingdom, but the original company is from the US. So under the transfer or license agreement tu, there will be some monetary benefit lah to the main companies, like for instance KFC Malaysia. So maybe as a result of having granted a license to operate using the KFC name in Malaysia, maybe a few percent of the profit has to be paid to the main company in the US. So that's how it works lah. So what will happen if the owner of original KFC does not register KFC under their name? So if they do not register, anybody can use the names to operate or to run their business. So let's say in the future, if you have a unique product or a unique business, you better register it under your names. It depends. Some product can be registered under patent. Some products can be registered under trademark. It depends on what type of product. If you want to know details on what type of product can be registered under patent, under trademark or under license, and then you need to further explore type of intellectual property that can be registered. So like for instance, for university, most of the research product, if the research product has a commercial value, normally university will register the product under the university or under the professor's name. So once it has been registered, no other party can claim that the product is their product. So that is how important is for us to register any research products or any other products that we have created. So this is 3 attributes for intellectual property under International Financial Reporting System. IFRS ni is International Financial Reporting System. So if you look at this slide from the beginning, most of the definition, most of the characteristic, most of the attributes comes from the accounting standard. So International Financial Reporting System ni is one of the internationally accepted financial reporting throughout the world. So as I mentioned earlier because before the existence of business valuation profession, the accounting professions is a long time ago has ventured into this intangible asset because they have to report it in the financial statement. So that's why they have actually have a quite a long or established knowledge and experience as far as intangible asset is concerned. So that's why if you look at most of the definition, most of the guidelines or criteria or characteristic for intangible, it comes financial or accounting professions. So like this one, these are 3 attributes for international for intellectual property is listed by International Financial Reporting Standard IFRS. In Malaysia, we have Malaysian Accounting Standard, MAS, Malaysian Accounting Standard. So under international, we have IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard. So same like valuation like for Malaysia we have MVS, Malaysian Valuation Standard, but for international we have IVS, International Valuation Standards. For any countries who does not have their own country standard, they will follow the international standard. But for countries who has their own country standard, they will use their own country standard. For instance, valuation. Malaysia, since we have our own Malaysian standard, so we will use the Malaysian standard as far as valuation is concerned. But for the Philippines, for Cambodia or Myanmar, because since they don't have their own valuation standard, then they will use international valuation standards when they are doing valuation. So same with this one lah. Since Malaysia we have our own standard, we don't normally follow the international standard one. But as far as some of the definition is concerned, some of the definition we cannot find under Malaysian standard. So that's why we still need to refer to the international standard as far as the definition or the criteria is concerned. So like this one. So under Malaysian standard, we don't. The Malaysian standard does not list out these 3 attributes for intellectual property. That's why we have to refer to International Financial Reporting Standards as far as the attributes for intellectual property is concerned. So the 3 attributes is identifiable, controlled by the owner, possess future economic value. So as I mentioned lah, intellectual property, once you register under your name, you have control over it. Then it will have the future economic value. So that's why you can sell the intellectual property to any other interested parties. So this is type of intellectual property: copyright, trademark, patent, or industrial design. So this is the type of intellectual property. So intellectual property can be in the form of copyright, in the form of trademark, in the form of patent, and in the form of industrial design. Look at the heading. This is commonly known intellectual property. So this is the famous one lah, intellectual property. When we are talking about intellectual property, people will always refer it as a copyright, trademarks, patent, and industrial design. But don't forget, we have another types of intellectual property which is lesser known. This one people will ignore lah. This one, utility innovation is also part of intellectual property. 3D design, new plant variety, geographical indication, confirmation information, like let's say like macam pharma currently they are working on to produce new clone or new types of corn, jagung. So when they have successfully comes out with the new clone for corn, jagung, and then if it is registered under their name, and then they will have the right for the new clone of corn to as their intellectual property. Same like Musang King, Blackthorn. So if the parties who has discovered the new clone for the durians or banana or paddy whatsoever lah, if they registered the new clone under their names, and then it will become their intellectual property. So when it has been registered, you have the right lah to sell the new plant variety to the interested parties, maybe to the farmers association will produce the new clone commercially. So this is an example of copyright. This one you can just go by yourself. This is very straightforward. This is some examples of copyright. So copyright refers to the physical expressions of ideas, works, i.e. not just an idea, but the idea must be transferred into form, like drama, films, sound recordings, costumes and broadcasts, literacy, musical, artistic. And that's why, as I mentioned just now, if you have if you have composed a new song, and then if you feel that your new song which you have composed is very unique, then you should register it. Once you have registered it and it will become your own intellectual property lah. Like Tan Sri P. Ramlee, most of his film is not registered under his name. Once he passed away, the company who has produced the film, company's name, so it becomes the company's intellectual property. So as a result, the family of the late Tan Sri P. Ramlee does not get any benefit lah for the artistic product which has been produced by the late Tan Sri P. Ramlee. So that's why if you don't want to be like that, if you have created an artistic product, you should register it under your name. It depends lah, copyright ke patent ke, but most of the musical product, dramas, film ni normally it will be registered under copyright. So the copyright will be yours. Like your if you are doing your research, university do the research, so university will file or register the copyright under the university's name, because the university has spent so much money to do the research. So that's why the university will register the research product under the university's name. So if there is a company who is interested to buy the copyright to make it commercial, so the company has to pay to the university lah the price that the university is asking for the copyright. So this is the example of a copyright. Harry Potter costume, kan, iconic Cinderella castle of Walt Disney. This is example of song, kan, any song by the Beatles ke apa ke. So that is the example of copyright. So this is example of trademark. Just now is an example of copyright. This is example of trademark. Automatic protection under common law of thought of passing off, governs by Trademark Act 96, means protection under Trade Description Act. So this is the act which governs trademarks. For trademarks, it will has expiry date, protection for the first 10 years, after which subject to maintenance of renewal every 10 years. So trademarks can be renewed. Trademark. This is example of trademark lah. Honda, the Chicken Rice Shop, RISM. If the logo has been registered under trademark, we cannot simply use the logo. If you want to use the logo for our commercial product, we have to request a permission from the owner. Like Honda, Ayama. So this is example of trademark. Again, this is also example of trademark. Trademark could be in the form of taglines, in the form of names, in the form of symbols or logo. Like SR for surveyors under RSM. So it is registered under trademark. Not everybody can use the SR for their names, because it has been registered under trademark. SR ni is for the members of RISM only can use SR in front of their names. This is example of trademark. Patent. So this is example of patent. industrial design. So this is example of industrial design. Utility innovation. This is example layout design of integrated circuits. Geographical indications. This is example of geographical indication. This is a famous Gruyere cheese, like durians, balik pulau durians. Kan Blackthorn is registered under balik pulau a special clone for durians, which can cost you up to 1 or 200 per kilogram. Kan Blackthorn, the new famous clone of durians. Plant variety, this is as I mentioned just now lah. Most of the plant variety ni is registered under FAMA or under MARDI, not FAMA, MARDI, Malaysian Agriculture Research Institute, Research and Development Institute, MARDI. So this is the example of plant variety lah. This is from overseas. As far as MARDI is concerned, most of the patent, the plant variety registered under MARDI is like different clone for padi, different clone for jagung, corn, different clone for local plants lah, for palm oil, for rubber. So this is a confidential information, automatic protection by common law, perpetual protection. So this is the example lah. Commercial groupings for intangible assets and intellectual properties. Ni your attendance tadi. So I'm not sure whether in your